Hey there, listener. Welcome to the Deep Share Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Rouse, and for the last couple of decades, I've slowly been opening my eyes to a very different world than the one I grew up hearing about. And the more conversations I have with interesting people, the more mystifying this world becomes. So without further ado, let's get deep.
We've got science to celebrate! Demons bliss now! After plus 50, come on!
There is rebellion in the wind. It will be crushed.
Everything I've said is true. It's real.
Dinosaur fossils? God put those here to test our faith.
That damn lie. I saw them with my own eye.
Did I fuse just drop sharply while I was away?
We did illusions, man! None of it is true!
I'm not insane!
This is mass madness, you maniac! In God's name, you people are the real thing! We are the illusion!
And we are officially recording the first episode of the Deep Share Podcast. I am your host, Andrew, and I'm here with my friend, Eric.
Hello, everyone. Can you let me know if my mouth sounds too dry?
Sure.
Because it's a huge pet peeve of mine when people are recording, like you hear their mouths being dry. It's very disgusting.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I mean, at least you have a nice drink with you.
Yeah, I'll try not to spill it on your equipment.
Don't do that. No. But anyway, so yeah. I don't even know what this podcast is potentially going to be, really.
So you called it the Deep Share.
Because we're going to share deep shit, for sure, in whatever direction we want. That's kind of the only goal I had at the time, where, like, trying different formats in my head, I'm not a professional this, I'm not a professional that, so I figured I've always had great conversations with friends. And they've inspired me to do the crazy things I've done. So I figured that's a good place to start.
Yeah. I mean, listen, at this point in my life, if I fully support anybody who does anything that gives them an excuse to see the people that they never get to see. Like, it's almost worth starting a podcast just so you can actually see your friends once in a while.
You know, I've been thinking about that lately, too, that's like a nice angle for the end of 2020 and going into 2021 with a lot of uncertainty out there.
Yeah.
Who knows?
A little bit.
You know, I mean, I have a nice little group chat I have with a few friends that we barely even interact with much these days. It's just like, it's almost like the digital space has been affected as well by the lockdowns and all this stuff, where, like, we're not seeing each other in person as much. And a lot of us have gone inward, I think, rather than outward, even digitally. At least that's from my perspective, my household. We've kind of done a lot of inner searches and discovery and things like that.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, that's always tough. Like, you're not the first person that I've heard say that. And especially, like, talking about how lockdowns and like how, like, working has changed and not seeing family and stuff has changed. Like, I've heard that quite a bit. As if I have a lot of conversations with adults, which is not true. I have conversations with my wife, but for the most part, that's, like, legitimately not true for me at all, because I've always been so introverted. Like, I'm not in any group chats, and, like, I go weeks without leaving. Well, I leave on the weekends, but, like, all week long, like, I won't even leave my house, besides, like, taking the dog out to walk to the end of the driveway and get the mail.
And you're working from home right now.
Yeah, I was working from home before COVID. Sure. So it's like I'm so isolated. And, like, it's a really weird thing because, like, I hate it, but, like, I also know that's how I'm comfortable and, like, it's how I operate best. But it's like,
now that the option has been kind of constricted.
Yeah,
it's
even
like, well,
more.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, and then we moved to where?
Yeah.
So we're
which, for those who don't know, it's a good name for the town, because most times that I was there in my youth, I was like, where?
Yeah, where the fuck am I? Yeah, we live on a dead end off a dead end.
But it's beautiful out there.
Yeah, it's great. It's awesome.
The isolation is beautiful.
It's wonderful. Yeah, we got a great view of a hill, and, you know, Worcester got expensive, so we sold our house at a good time and got something nice, but it's, you know, it's the middle of nowhere. My hope is that, you know, rent and real estate got really expensive in Boston and moved everybody west, and a lot of people moved to Worcester, and that's why it's super expensive or whatever. And my hope is that people are just going to keep moving west, and then they'll want to buy my house for a lot more than I paid for it again.
It's probably a good estimate right there. I mean,
maybe. And I think it's, you know, the shift to work from home for a lot of for a lot of professions is also huge in that, because I think that a lot of people are moving out to where they have more space. You know, because cities, like, obviously we congregate towards cities as people, right? Like, and there's obviously an appeal there for a lot of people, but I think an equal, if not greater amount of people are like, I'm here because of my job, or my school or whatever it may be. And if I had the choice, I would definitely live somewhere else. So COVID has been kind of a blessing, because like almost every single company, right? Like 90% of companies have realized that some portion of their employees can work from home.
Mm-hmm.
And,
my company included as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's always going to be those jobs that can't, right? But
there's a lot of bitterness when it happened too.
Oh, I believe that.
I was guilty of it a little bit, because in the beginning, none of us had our heads about us when all this was happening. I didn't really know what I believed about any of it, but I knew that I was frantic, because this was the first any kind of situation, you know, on a global scale that had happened since I had my son and got a family and a house and all the,
this is the first any situation period on a global scale that we've lived through.
Yeah.
You know, great opportunity for us to all come together.
Oh, and I was going to say, when you were, it's interesting because all this inner searching and discovery that I've been doing, it's kind of like a chapter 2 or another book, I guess you could say, of what I was doing like 10, 15 years ago. And then it kind of got too much. So I just forcibly put myself back to sleep for like a decade.
What do you mean, like a chapter? Like, what were you doing?
As in, you know, so you and me lived in Oregon in 2005, 2006. And that was like right after I had experienced a lot of psychedelic experiences. And that really blew my mind wide open. And, you know, it was fascinating, but also terrifying and confusing, because it was as if, you know, you took the blinders off for the first time. That's kind of what it was going on
like
with me.
Overload.
And I remember
existential
this
overload.
Beautiful advice that you gave me in our kitchen. I think you and me were both like desperately cleaning out like 15 glass bowls, trying to get resin out of them.
I remember that vividly.
Oh, the hard times in Oregon.
Yeah.
But I was connecting this and that and this and that, who knows what, and you just took me for a second. You were like, listen, I understand that all these things are connected, but what you also have to keep in mind is that they're also separate.
Yeah.
And it was a great little, almost like a slap in the face that kind of sent me back to reality a little bit, because I was going down the crazy tinfoil path so far.
Yeah.
Without a lot of cultural support.
Yeah.
This time around, it's a little bit different.
Oh my God,
because
dude, there wasn't even social media then, Barry.
I know.
I mean, Jesus.
And think of it, like a lot of, it's funny because my wife is very into law of attraction, which is, you know, you believe it enough and you can manifest, and there's more to it.
Secret.
Way more to it than that. And the secret kind of simplifies and perverts it a little bit and makes it kind of silly.
As all the popular versions of these things do.
Exactly. Because, I mean, when you get to the bare bones of what law of attraction is, it's actually like pretty much the most ancient form of spirituality there is, and it permeates basically every culture. It's just they write it in a very commercial, marketable way, and it turns people like me right off. So it took a long time for my wife to kind of, she connected enough dots for me to go, oh, wait a minute, this all feels very familiar, but it wasn't any of this stuff. And then it made me look deeper. And oh, wait, okay, so this is really old. They're just marketing it in a new way, and it's getting a lot more people interested. So cool, whatever. Yeah. I forgot where I was going with that. Oh yeah, the manifestation thing about it.
Yeah.
The part of, so it's like, why did we want to get so sick across the world? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, if an individual can manifest these things, and you know, the placebo effect could have more potential. They're studying that kind of thing. But perhaps on a global scale, it does the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's, if you're gonna approach it from a place of we want it to get sick, and that's why the virus is a thing.
As in subconsciously,
that's
you know?
Yeah,
to wake us up to something,
consciously or subconsciously. Like, I feel like that's not a palatable theory that anyone is gonna listen to for any period of time.
Hell
not like podcast related. It's just like everybody shuts off when you're like, oh Jesus Christ, he thinks we willed COVID into existence.
Right. Oh my God, it's
ridiculous.
a huge eye roll.
Yeah, it's
mostly for
ridiculous.
me too.
But if you think about that, like, we definitely 100% put ourselves in a situation where something like this could happen and spread. Like, you could look at almost any hot button issue and blame the spread of COVID on that hot button issue. Income inequality. If China didn't have such ridiculous income inequality, they wouldn't have to have these wet markets,
right?
Where it's not sanitary, and these viruses can just manifest
like
out of nowhere,
right,
and spread like wildfire, where people are living shoulder to shoulder,
right,
and culturally, like, there's no personal space. Like fossil fuels, like, you could blame COVID on fucking fossil fuels. It's like people, there's a conspiracy theory for everyone, for everything,
sure.
Which I think is my point. Is like, and I've heard a lot of things like, COVID vaccines, and they want you to stay inside. It's a control thing, or they want, like, it would almost, like, fossil fuels and COVID would almost be like an inverse thing. Like, they want us to stop using fossil fuels, so they have us locked down. Mm-hmm. That would be a nice thing to think. Well, I mean, it's kind of I think that my point is that it kind of speaks to what I told you in Oregon, which I don't remember saying, but
you said it in a different way.
I think it kind of speaks to that, because, like,
just because everything's connected doesn't mean they're also individual.
Well, I think that it does. Like, you have to remember that, when you're connecting dots to get a bigger picture, you still have individual dots, right. And, like, along the way, you could veer left to connect a dot and create a whole different picture, but it's still all the same dots.
Right. My wife and I were having a similar conversation the other night about just the simple fact that we kind of have a philosophical movement out there in the world where we seem to be accentuating shades of gray, and maybe demonizing is a strong word, but trying to eradicate black and white, as if the two are among the same level of understanding as shades of gray, and we should just get rid of them because they're a lesser form of what we should be focusing on. Mm-hmm. And what I was talking to my wife about was that, to me, it seems that shades of gray and black and white are two perspectives, but they're both very true. Where without black and white, you wouldn't get the shades of gray, and vice versa. It's very connected. It's just a different level of part of what the world we see.
Right. I don't think that you could get rid of black and white, though.
No.
And I think.
And
maybe
I'm using that loosely. Like, you could go the racial route with that, or you could go the gender route, or you could go any route. I'm basically talking about opposing forces being constantly argued about. That.
Yeah, I was picturing it more as, like, speaking in absolutes.
That works too.
And, like, you can't really. Sometimes you can speak in absolutes, because there's always going to be an instance where if you speak in absolute, the sun is going to rise tomorrow. Mm-hmm. You're going to have some dickhead be like, well, listen, dude, 45 billion years from now, that sun is not going to rise. Right. And it's like, first of all, fuck you. That's annoying. But also, like, it's like I took a quantum physics class in college. Super fascinating. But the professor is like, if you run at a wall an infinite number of times, one time, you're going to go right through that wall.
Right, yeah.
And it's just like, why the fuck? First of all, why are you introducing this to a bunch of college freshmen?
Yeah,
who are like they just need something to get behind.
The kid in the front row has mushrooms in his bag.
Yeah, like, for sure he does. We're lucky if he didn't take them already. But it's like the world is a nuanced place, and there's a lot of subtlety and, like, call it that gray space. It's like the vast majority is that gray space. But, like, we at a certain point, I believe we have to accept that some things are black and some things are white. And the sun rising every day is an easy one.
That's good.
I think. But
perspective. Yeah,
but, like, I think that there's stuff you have to accept. And, like, keep it in the back of your mind, sure, that, like, okay, someday the sun's not going to rise.
Right. Maybe
Like-
your acceptance doesn't have to be completely rigid, but just you can hold on to
Right.
it.
But you can accept something
Yeah.
without fully
Yeah.
being that contrarian dick.
Well, also, wasn't that who said that? Like Aristotle or somebody said that. It was
I wonder if anybody can hear your furnace. Right?
that's my furnace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have
sounds,
a furnace,
sounds
at
real
least.
good. No, I think it might have been either Aristotle or maybe Socrates who said, the sign of true intelligence is to, discuss an idea without feeling like you have to believe it.
Yeah.
And you find it, I find that a lot in the public when you try to talk about anything controversial, even in a positive, passive way. Sometimes you can hit a lot of nerves from people that are just very rigid.
Yeah.
And it seems to be what I'm seeing this year is that I'm seeing a huge spike in open-mindedness, but then also a huge spike in the closed-minded. It
Yeah.
seems like the opposing forces are just revved up.
Yeah. I mean, I don't come into contact with enough people to comment on on whether or not that's true, because I'm super isolated and I don't really go on social media really.
Fair enough.
But I think that it's really interesting, but it's just so easy to be dismissive.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
so easy. Like, it makes everything easier if you're just dismiss things.
They're
Like
calling that black pill these days.
like
are
just
they not?
choosing not to. I don't know. Are they?
I've
I don't talk to
I've
them.
heard they.
Yeah, I don't-
I've heard, some refer to it as being the black pill guy, the cool black pill, as in the whole world's going to end, fuck it, none of it
Yeah.
matters anyway. And it's like,
Yeah.
that's becoming a philosophy. That was just me when I was 17 and
But that's
upset
also
for a month.
is that not also nihilism?
Right. It's like,
Like-
why are we giving new stupid fucking names for everything? Because nihilism sounds offensive for some reason, so I don't want to use it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's crazy. I mean, I don't know. I'm a big proponent of if nothing or if everything is super super important,
Yeah.
and we have to be sensitive about everything, we have to be sensitive about nothing. Like,
'Cause
at
that's a
work,
thing.
like if you're at work, like if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority,
Yeah.
right? And
That's why they say this mentality will eat itself.
yeah, but it's also it's also a founding tenet of Buddhism, the concept of non-attachment, like not being attached to things.
Right.
Like, if you love someone, you want them to be happy, so you will not be possessive over them.
Right.
And if they want to leave you, you will do it with an open heart because that's what's going to make them happy.
Yeah, it
right?
sounds great on paper.
It does, but it's also a fucking 1,000-year-old religious philosophy.
Oh, it works too.
yeah,
It's real.
It's a real thing, and it's like it goes back. And I mean, I think non-attachment is great. It helps you get through, because not everything does matter. And
People
some
take it
stuff
to the extreme.
it is important to dismiss some things, but yeah, people take it to the extreme, and
As in
that's
they get into this kind of thing like Buddhism or something, and then they throw it out pretty quick because they're like, my God, I can't do anything. And it's like, well, maybe you should take it with a grain of salt and use it as a driving force rather than like, I have to, because if you're not happy, and I know that they would say that, things don't make you happy. It's like, my microphone, I like that it's this microphone because I'm a nerd and I'm recording this pod. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like my stuff.
Yeah.
How do you throw out the baby with the bathwater? You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I kind of interjected in.
No. I think it's fair. It's fair. It's fine. It's like the concept of just like you have to. It's like acceptance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to accept that. You have to accept the fact that there's a lot of people out there who are like, materialism is bringing down the Western world, whatever, and that's fine. You can think that.
It was me throughout most of my 20s.
Yeah, and you can, but you have to accept that those people exist.
Mm-hmm.
But you also have to accept that there's people who are just like, nah, not so much, and they're both right. It's both fine. It's a fucking opinion, and I know, it's hot button, but like politically. I mean, far be it for me to say, but you kind of have to accept the fact that there's a lot of people who disagree with you. And like, you have to accept that there's a lot of people that do. People don't really have a hard time with that, but like, you have to accept that sometimes you're right and sometimes other people are right. there's a lot. I think that people have a tendency to no, they're not. Like this is unequivocally bad.
Right.
And it is unequivocally this, it is unequivocally that, but like,
and we're getting into those extremes again.
Yeah. And it's also, where has that ever gotten us?
Nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's always a balance in that gray area that you mentioned. Why does this light keep flashing?
That goes from warm to cool light. We can turn it off.
But why is it switching?
I don't know why it switches. Here's the problem. These two are still connected to the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
That one just one day I pulled up the app. These two were fine. This one's like, I quit.
I mean, I think just to add some context to what I'm talking, there's a lamp in the room that keeps turning colors.
Just two.
And it's
just cool.
It's yellow warm. And then it's blue. And then it's yellow, and then it's blue.
I will say that
and Andy's contention is that it's because it's not connected to the Wi-Fi anymore.
When I change the front lights here to a cool color,
yeah,
it kind of gives it it kind of makes it seem like that's not happening.
It like offsets it.
Not really. Just hang on.
I mean, it's something.
What's going on here?
I was just curious. It's like, there's a light flashing behind me. And there has been for like 40 minutes.
So you can get some blue.
Well, see, now that's nice. It's nice and blue, little purple, little orange.
Yeah, whatever.
What are these? Philips Hue?
Like literally,
what are you up to?
It's not Philips Hue. It's like cheap Amazon crap. But man, I would
that does the exact same thing as the expensive
I would
stuff?
love to spend, $800 and set up my whole house with the Philips stuff. But my God,
why?
Like, they have a great idea. Well, because it's got a better this and a better that, better quality in the product.
Yeah.
It is some of that. It's definitely better than what I got, which was like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I worked in an office when I worked for Let's Rage.
Yes, the clothing company.
Yeah, so Let's Rage was based out of an apartment in Medford, Massachusetts. It was the second floor of a triple decker, and the whole second floor was the office, and like the guy who led it, he one of the bedrooms was his office, along with like the office manager, and all of us who were whatever. We sat in the living room, and he was a trinket guy. Like it was all like tech, buy this, buy that, whatever, which, whatever. I don't really want to get into the specifics of my experience there, but we had Philips Hue there in the living room, and like, it was pretty cool because I like really white, like really, really white light when I'm working, like helps me concentrate. And like, I worked with like 4 kids who just like needed it to be, like a rave the whole time.
Really?
Yeah, it was crazy. But
just because they wanted to live it.
Yeah, but I outranked everybody. Nice. And so I mean, I don't like to throw my weight around, but like, it's at a certain point, it's just like, guys, I'm getting paid and like none of you are. Like, I'm on salary, so like, I need the lights different. I can't work in that. It was crazy.
Like, we could all take you though.
Yeah.
Like, no, you couldn't. You're all on Molly.
Yeah. I mean, for real. Like, half of you guys live in this apartment that we work in. Like
over there.
What are you
I'm
talking
looking
about?
at your bed.
Yeah. Like, this company was sponsored by. It was sponsored by Neuro. Neuro, like they can make energy, like not energy drinks, but like they make Neuro Sleep. It helps you sleep. Neuro Sonic. It's an energy drink. It's like, y'all eat and drink Neuro for like, that's all you're all on Neuro all day, and you're going to raves, and it's, yeah, dude, it was a scene. It was really something. But ever since then, like Philips Hue, every time I see it, I'm just like, I just remember that time. And I remember how like I had access to it all day long, and it was just so stupid.
Right. And so expensive.
It's like, oh, I get to change the color of my lights. Like, what the fuck?
I love it, but
no, don't get me wrong.
But look,
it's cool. Yeah. You can go. It's cool that you can be sitting in a room and be like, "Fuck it, I want red light. Fuck it, I want purple light." That's cool. That's fine. But that's very fucking stupid, dude. Like, you don't need that, right? Like,
no, absolutely not.
No, it's like, and then like, I don't mean to be the kind of person that's just like, what are you doing with that? You don't need that. Like, why do you buy those sneakers? You don't need those. I got
one fork.
Yeah, I got one fork. I don't need more forks. Like, no, dude, that's not what I mean at all. Like, I get it. I can appreciate it. It's just not for me.
Right.
What I like though that I had was the strip lighting, like the LED strip lighting that you put behind a monitor.
Yes.
And I got off Kickstarter a really long time ago before my wife broke it on me. But she said she'd buy me a new one, so maybe this can serve as a reminder that she's going to do that someday.
Hey, it's on record now.
Yeah, it had to happen. But like as the screen changes, like the ambient light on the wall behind the TV changes.
Yeah, I want to get one of those.
It was
for mine.
so sick.
It's pretty nice.
It was so sick. It was such an early thing. I think it was like $35 on Kickstarter, and like I'd never even heard of it before. It was a really long time ago. It was
Wow.
It was probably
That must have been like 10 years ago.
no.
at least.
We've been together for 8 years, and this was probably 6 or 7 years ago.
Wow, I didn't know they were that new.
Maybe they aren't. Like I told you, I'm not out there, dude. Like I don't know. You know.
Live in a cave on purpose.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's a self-imposed exile.
Hey, that's okay. I mean, especially this year.
Yeah, it's made the adjustment a lot easier.
You can come out of the world into the world now and just go, what happened?
It's such an upgrade for me that I don't like now, like takeout. It's like, fuck this place if it doesn't have online ordering before COVID. Fuck this place if it doesn't have online ordering. Now, and it's like a pain. Like, oh, I got to call them. Shit.
Right.
But now, dude, I get away with contactless delivery. Like, I don't even have to talk. I don't even have to talk to you. I don't even have to look at you.
I have to ask you this because
Amazing.
I thought we might get into like the tech topic and stuff like this, like how convenient everything is becoming. And I got to ask your perspective on this because I think it will be something surprising that I don't already think you think about it.
You're setting my response to be very, very
Specific?
disappointing. No, disappointing.
No, I'm just going to say you're going to probably surprise me with something I'm not expecting you to say.
And I'm not going to watch me not do that.
What about the world that we see, like, in all the sci-fi movies, like the movie WALL-E? You know, my kid's got the WALL-E right upstairs.
Yeah.
Are we heading towards that future where, right now, we're right at that beautiful cusp where people like us who are in our mid-30s, we remember a completely different world.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I haven't really thought on it too long. If every generation can really say that or not.
No, they cannot.
I don't think so. Not at least to what we're seeing right now. And
It's context.
we're able to see how it used to be more laboring. Everything was more laboring. Communication was so much more laboring. We're really swept up in how amazing it all is.
Well,
but
I mean,
I'm wondering
the
possible consequences in the negative direction for this. Everything's taken care of. Everything is out of our hands.
Yeah, I do have a perspective on that. So like I think first of all, every generation is like, we are living through shit nobody has ever lived through before.
Dude.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Definitely.
All right, okay, like let's get past that.
Everyone's done that.
As a member of the generation that I'm in, from my perspective, I think it's absolutely mental that like we barely had cable TV in the 80s, and like there wasn't social media in high school, thank God. Like there wasn't like I didn't have a smartphone my freshman year of college.
Right.
Like I had a flip phone. Like and now I have all the things all the time. Like now I work in a room above my garage with people that I see all day long, and it's whatever. Like it's just so much more technologically advanced. I think that when you think about like futures like WALL-E or my favorite, I mean that's an extreme.
Well, but is it any more extreme than WALL-E?
No, for sure not. But so my favorite kind of books are young adult dystopian fiction.
Oh, okay.
Like you start with The Hunger Games, and you start with Divergent or whatever the fucking first one is. I can't remember. Maybe that is the first one. But
I think so.
In like Maze Runner, and like there's a lot of different books in that series.
Oh yeah.
So they're all like a different future where this happened instead, or where this happens, or whatever. And the thing that's interesting is like, for nobody fucking knows. Nobody knows. Wait,
of course not.
Like, what do you know? First of all, if you think that the future. First, when's the future for you? Because in the 80s, 2020 in Back to the Future was like hoverboards and shit.
Screw 2020. Didn't it take place in 2015? Part 2 was 2015.
Did it?
Yeah, hoverboards.
Yeah, so
cool ones.
So that's your future.
Bulldogs.
That's your future.
Or
Now
pit
listen,
bulls?
we've come a long way.
Yeah.
We have hoverboards that work on water because you've got power now, comparatively, right? So, but what's it going to be like in 35 years? I don't fucking know. VR is going to be dope. Are we going to be in a place where, like, did you read Ready Player One or did you see that movie?
I saw the movie.
Yeah, so
I
they
never
came
read
out.
it.
It's awesome. They came out with a sequel like just 3 weeks ago, a book.
Oh wow,
Phenomenal. But the whole concept is like they have this VR that you log into, and you put it on your head, and you can operate in this VR world. It's like Second Life, but it's just all in your brain,
Right.
And you operate everything, whatever.
It's unbelievable.
No, yeah, that's unbelievable. Like we have VR and shit.
It's all right. It's getting better.
Yeah, it's getting better, but like we're getting to a point. I could see us getting to a place where it's just an implant or it's just a thing on our head. And, we have contactless delivery. We have Amazon that brings things to our house super, super quick. We don't have to shop. And so to your point of like, yeah, there's less and less that we have to do. I don't think it's a negative thing. I think it's a positive thing because, whenever I think about like, it's my birthday, what do I want to do? Or it's Christmas and my wife asks me like, what do you want? Like my knee-jerk reaction is like, oh, I wish you could give me more time. Haha, dad joke. But like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't have enough time to do any of the shit that I want to do.
Right. I agree.
I could take care of my house. I could take care of my family. I could take care of my dog, my cats. I can work. I could spend some time like seeing but like, there's so much to do. Like I haven't played video games in forever and I'd like to.
Yeah.
Like I haven't played guitar in forever and I'd like to. All this shit. I have TV shows that I've been wanting to watch and movies. And like, I think that a future where we have to worry less about, listen, if it can be automated, it's probably trivial bullshit.
Right.
If there's a future world where more shit is automated and that'll give us all more time to do the things that really make us happy.
That's a great perspective.
Or even discover the things that really make us happy.
I love that. I love that idea.
I think it's huge.
Just to jump in, I see two very different outcomes, and I'm not sure if they're both going to happen or one or the other or neither, but I see that what you're saying completely. What I worry about, and I'm not trying to even go down conspiracy lane at all, but I'm thinking about the movers and shakers of this world. Dare I say billionaires? Because, is that really so wrong to suppose that the ones with the most influence and power and money are the ones that are slowly shaping the world in which that they see fit? And we have a vote here and there for this and that, but people sneak shit in all the time, and eventually these very powerful people, companies, corporations, governments, they tend to get the projects done that they wanted to get done. It always seems to come out later on like, oh, it turns out that this was going, and it's like, oh, anyway, here's the weather.
Yeah, well, the fact of the matter is if you have enough money, you can do literally whatever the fuck you want.
Right, so it's letting us just establish that.
Yeah. And if you disagree with that, like Elon Musk wanted to drill fucking holes in the ground.
Yeah.
And he did.
He has a boring company.
Yeah. So you can do whatever you want. He used to be bald and now he's not. You can do whatever you want. If
he named his kid a math problem or something.
Yeah.
But hey,
I prefer challenge rather than the word problem, but go on.
Hey, I like that too.
Yeah, sure.
So where I was going with that, so fine, let's leave that alone. That's a fact. The powerful people of the world are the big kids on the playground deciding what game is getting played, and the younger kids are the ones tagging along and playing it. And it's unfortunate that we have to look at it like that, but that's kind of just how the world works. We grow up that way, so that's all we know, and we just perpetuate it as we get older.
That's the way it is and has always been.
Yeah, it's literally an example of the spiral of life, of how it's all the same thing, just on a greater scale, a different scale and variance. What the billionaires of this world are planning right now is a little frightening, because it's that beautiful future mixed with the...
That was rude.
That was weird.
So
kids
rude.
playing upstairs.
Just gonna drag a chair across the floor in the middle of your point.
It was probably my son. Shit, where was...
Can I just interject?
Okay.
I don't want to throw you so off, but could you talk a little bit about how you know exactly what the fuck the billionaires of the world are planning?
Sure, because
what insight do you have on that?
Well, because they're coming right out and saying it, and they're not saying it in any nefarious kind of way necessarily.
So what are they saying?
They're doing a whole lot of hold your horses, let us explain.
Yeah,
that kind of stuff.
But what is it? What are they doing?
So you've heard of the Economic Forum, the World Economic Forum.
Yeah. Are you talking about the Great Reset?
Yes.
Is this where we're going?
Which a lot of it sounds really beautiful, and it also sounds like what a lot of don't know how to categorize us all as one, but free thinking, critical thinking individuals of my generation, your generation, as we were growing up, the ideas that the Great Reset describes, some of them are very much the utopic feelings that we had growing up.
I mean, we have to talk like what is the Great Reset?
I mean, we can go to the World Economic Forum and get into it, or you could go on.
Yeah,
right
so
now.
I'm gonna Google it right now. So the only
Don't
reason
Google it. Why don't you DuckDuckGo it so it's not a filtered search?
because I don't give a fuck, bro.
All right, let's
I
get a
want
filtered
the
answer.
World Economic Forum version.
Well, let's hope we get that.
they're both gonna-
Let's get their website at least.
So the reason that I know about the Great Reset is because I saw you commenting on something on Twitter, and on some thing that I don't know anything about, and I was like, "What is it? What the fuck's he up to now?" And so I looked it up, and I read a little bit about it, and I was just like almost exactly to your point. It's just like, this seems fine. So this seems like it'll be okay.
A lot of it seems okay.
Yeah, which is kind of the problem, right? But
Well, no, I'll get to the problem. Let's.
what's frustrating to me is like I know that it has like bullets, right? There's like bullet points.
Sure. Among many paragraphs and graphs and
Yeah.
forms and Venn diagrams.
Yeah, well, it's the World Economic Forum. So what the fuck is even that?
I mean, it may take you a little bit to dig into a general page to just give you a quick definition of the Great Reset.
Well, you know what I can do?
because the Great Reset is more of a philosophy or a mentality going on. It's a title. But...
Let me just read what. Let's just talk to Wikipedia for a second.
Okay.
So, according to the World Economic Forum, the COVID-19 pandemic presents an opportunity to shape an economic recovery and the future direction of global relations, economies, and priorities. The globalists are stoked, and people who hate globalism are not stoked about this at all.
Correct.
When Britain's Prince Charles introduced the plan, interesting person to introduce it because all he literally is a rich guy.
Love that guy.
He outlined that it will only happen if people want it. Much like literally everything in the world, it will only happen if people would like for it to happen.
Especially when events are created to make people want things.
Interesting. According to Prince Charles, I'm having a hard time getting over him being like the guy.
Yeah,
because,
I don't like
dude,
it either.
He's literally a fucking dude. He's a landowner.
Yeah,
Like,
we don't even have to get into how
Hey, guy.
big of a piece of shit he is.
Are you thinking about Prince Andrew?
All of them?
Okay, whatever. I mean,
We can go down the rabbit holes, but
we don't
not on
have
this
to go down that
episode.
rabbit hole. The one thing that I'm ready to agree on is
Is
this
Andrew.
dude has no, well, yeah, but the dude has no credibility.
Yeah, Charles? Yeah, no, he's just rich.
He's
but,
a landowner.
Right.
Listen,
But he-
very rich.
Right.
His family lucked into some shit. You want to talk about?
I don't know if luck. Rabbit hole.
You make
Rabbit
your own
hole.
luck. But according to Prince Charles, the economic recovery must put the world on a path to sustainability with systems being redesigned to help. Sure. Carbon pricing was mentioned as a way to help achieve sustainability. Carbon pricing is lame. It's boring to me. He also outlined that innovations, science, and technology need to be reinvigorated so we can achieve significant breakthroughs that help us make sustainable ideas more profitable. So that's fucking mental to me that somebody would say, he outlined that innovations need to be reinvigorated so that we can achieve significant breakthroughs. Like, bro,
Dissect that sentence.
that is the most vague bullshit. Like, we need to put people in a position to innovate. It's like,
Fuck you. No shit.
Yeah, bro, dude. Like, of course. Like, that's annoying to me because
that's not to say that his whole speech is bullshit or whatever.
No.
That's to say that the whole speech is filled with gobbledygook.
yeah, and I'm taking sentences out of context and whatever. But so it goes on to say, according to the World Economic, what is this? WEF? What did I say that was? The World Economic
Forum.
According to the World Economic Forum, we should also adapt to the current reality by directing the market to fairer results and ensure investments are aimed at mutual progress, including accelerating ecologically friendly investments, and to start a fourth industrial revolution, creating digital, economic, and public infrastructure. Now listen.
Now you know that those words right there, the fourth industrial revolution, those words are a big trigger word for like quite a few individuals in our human community, right?
Yeah, well, I'm saying chill on that, guys. I'm saying chill. I'm also saying
It's just like the Bushes throughout the years using what was it? The one world government. Like, stop saying that. Are you trying to gain trust, or are you just trying to laugh at people?
It's like that trope
are you giving
where it's like,
swirlies on TV?
Yeah, it's like you said the quiet part out loud, bro.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Come on.
Stop
What
it.
do you do? We talked about this, Charles.
Dude, you're running a cabal.
We
Stop
talked-
putting
we talked-
symbols on your hands and taking pictures on social media.
We talked about not talking about this. Like, give me a fucking break. But it's really, what's crazy to me is like, adapt. We should also adapt to the current reality by directing the markets to fairer results.
What
Now,
does that mean?
I have a big problem with, like, I love equality. I'm big
Sure.
into equality, and ain't nobody going to be able to take shit I say out of context to make it seem like what I'm about to say is not about equality. But I believe in equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. So saying that the results should be more fair is kind of like, you can kind of fuck off a little bit or a lot of it. But what's also interesting is he wants to start a fourth industrial revolution, loaded, whatever, okay. Creating digital, economic, and public infrastructure. Now, listen. As someone who's a Bitcoin enthusiast, that makes my ears perk up because I'm like, yo, bro, you should make a digital economy and Bitcoin should be the foundation of that. Absolutely. And because all these institutional investors are buying it up, it's a finite resource, and the value's going way, way up, and it's done really great for a lot of people. And what's interesting is, like, people say, well, Bitcoin is like fake money. It represents nothing. And like, it's interesting because that's true. It is assigned a value because people say it's worth a value, but that's the same thing with the dollar. It's not a gold standard. Yeah. So, but back to the topic at hand with the Great Reset. Reset implies that we're starting over, and we're not starting over from anything. Like, you can't just shut it all down. You can't topple the sandcastle and build it up again. So, what is the conspiracy angle? Because Wikipedia had like a whole section on the conspiracy behind it.
I can give you a lot of the different angles.
What's the fear?
I think when I released this podcast too, because just to keep in mind, listeners, this isn't going to be a conspiracy-driven podcast, but it will include conspiracy theory, because I think one of the biggest problems out there right now is the utter vicious separation between conspiracy theory and whatever the hell else everything else is.
Yeah, I mean, as somebody who like pretty often harps on making things palatable, like conspiracy theory, right, is like, if you call something a conspiracy, like, people are off. They shut off.
Yeah.
Right?
Or on,
but it's polarizing.
but it's wrong.
So I think it's not my podcast, so what the fuck, but
I take your advice and I heed your words wisely and always do.
I mean, maybe characterize it as different perspectives.
It really is.
Because that's really all it is. At the
I
end of the
always
day,
have
right?
I've always firmly had one foot in a very, I don't know, what's the word
Skeptical?
normie, skeptical kind of mind and upbringing, but then on the other foot, it's off in the cloud. I see both perspectives, and I don't like buying into anything. Like, when it comes to conspiracy theories, it's hard for some people in my life to believe that I do this, but I literally refuse to believe anything until I can't refuse it anymore, because I don't feel like I've been in too many arguments that I've come out looking like the idiot when I was younger to not look into something, or to just go, like I'm going to do to you, I'm going to do to the listeners, and put some references and some source material, in the show notes or something like that for episodes that may need some clarification. Mm-hmm. Because there's too much to be said, and there's too many people out there that know more than I do and can spit it out a lot better than I. I would like to refer people to the brilliant minds that are kind of spreading the information out there.
Sure.
Where do we start?
So we have to accept a few things in order to get even behind this. It's like, we are in a worse place now than ever, which would necessitate everybody getting together and like changing so much stuff. Now, we're in a worse place now than ever because of what? Because the pandemic is shitty and a lot of people have really, really suffered from it, but that has happened time and time again. On a scale similar, like, listen, in the United States, we had a really shitty response, tons of fucking people dying, whatever, but it's also global. Mm-hmm. And like, there's been really, really fucked up stuff going on for a really, really long time in a lot of places on Earth. It never really united anybody behind a great reset.
Right.
A lot of it seems environmentally driven.
It is.
Which, okay, but the prevailing minds also are like, we're probably past the point of no return. Like we're probably at a point now where there's not that much that we can do. Now that's not a reason for us to keep doing all the same shit that we're doing.
No,
sure,
not necessarily.
But like I don't know.
But to change the whole. So
the Great Reset. That sounds very dramatic.
So let me say it like this: not the crazy 3 followers, not those guys, but the people that have been systematically annexed from social media that run their own stations and have run their own stations for, some people used to run it when it was a radio station before a podcast, this and that.
Don't use names.
No names. Some individuals that really go the distance, and some of which that I listen to who have kind of suddenly broken through and are being interviewed by more, generally accepted journalists, because these journalists are going, some things don't seem right. Some things aren't adding up to my skeptical brain. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but it seems like this conspiracy theorist seems to know something about what the questions are in my head right now. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm seeing a lot of. And it seems to focus mainly around this Great Reset, and that a Great Reset it's the same thing it's always been. It's the same conspiracy that people have always been talking about. And when I say the conspiracy, that sends red flags out, because that's typically what the non-conspiracy theorist likes to yell back at the conspiracy theorist and say, is everything a conspiracy? And the problem is, yes, it's a hard thing to look at objectively because it's everywhere. Yeah. And that's also why it does seem insane. And I bet there is someone, at least one powerful person somewhere. I'm not saying they all get together behind closed doors and cackle menacingly, jumping into, fictional piles of gold. But there's got to be someone out there, maybe talking to his dad, going, wait, and everybody just goes crazy in the public when a news story like that comes out. So therefore, that's right, son, no one's even looking.
Yeah,
I think this isn't fiction. This isn't crazy talk.
No, it's not. I think it's very easy for people to dismiss it as crazy talk, though. Yeah. But I think if you think about it like they're okay, super broad, right? Like things happen all the time. Like governments are run, businesses are run, households are run, towns are run.
Mm-hmm.
You run yourself, right? So like. You make all the decisions for you.
You're hitting on a good point here, too. I like where we're going.
You make the decisions for you. You write out a list. You make a plan for the day. And you do that as a household. And your town has a projected future that it would like to see. And so I'm going to call that intentional. Mm-hmm. The things that are done in the government, I would hope that most people would say, they hope that the things their government does are intentional. They're not just, let's just do this. Let's just fuck it. Throw $6 billion at that. Like everything, I hope, and I might be way off here. Mm-hmm. What I would hope that everything a government does is for a reason, right? And so
you're not specifying good or bad. You're just saying a reason.
Everything they do. And so I'm going to operate on the assumption that everything the government does is intentional. There's a reason why they do it. And people might disagree on what the reason is that they do it, but we need to accept that you don't need to, whatever. It's intentional. Yeah. There's a reason why it's done. And it's really interesting when you look at the release of UFO documents, the Space Force, the White House memo last week about interstellar safety or whatever the fuck it was.
Are we talking about the Israeli?
No, I remember I
secretary.
Sent you. I texted you.
Yeah.
I texted you about
Space Force.
Yeah.
Space security.
Yeah. So it's these are intentional things. Why the fuck are they doing it? Why? And so you get into conspiracies. Are well, I think that they're doing it because fucking aliens. But okay, whatever, dude. Yeah. All right. There's aliens. I read. They're going to premiere new technology, and this is going to lay the groundwork for it so that it's not a huge shock. That this new technology that's going to come out is going to be from aliens and whatever. And we're just first of all, hopefully, Like in my wet dream that happens.
Second of all, are you talking about 1950 or like?
I'm talking about right now.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, like, this has been a conspiracy theory for 40 years that we've been slowly seeing. Leak
Well, the
in,
Great Reset is calling for technological advances that are gonna bring us into a fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah, I love
so
that
when
term.
you look at the context there, it's really interesting. But my overall point is like, if you can't dismiss everything as like, oh, it's just this, oh, it's just that,
Right.
because there comes a point when you got to realize that shit is done intentionally, and
on every level.
people like money. People like to make money. People like power. People like to have power, and money allows you to control.
Right.
It allows you to control literally everything that happens in your life. Because, like, you know, people like us, we don't have enough money to control everything that happens in our life. No. We go to work. That's not our fucking control. Right. If we could control things, we wouldn't go to work.
Back in the 90s, at some dark, creepy podium, Grant Morrison said a very telling, obvious thing. But maybe back then, maybe in the mid-90s, it wasn't that telling. Or what wasn't that obvious to them? He said, Rupert Murdoch doesn't drive a Rolls Royce because he bought a Rolls Royce. Rupert Murdoch drives a Rolls Royce because he's Rupert Murdoch. Mm-hmm. And at some level, the money doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
Eventually, money goes away, and it's all about influence and power, and it's a whole game that we don't really fully understand, and I'd rather not pretend we have all the cards in our... and I'm talking to hard-nosed conspiracy theorists about suggesting that you can't call something a psyop and then turn around and accept something else. And that's part. I mean, I love where this conversation is going, because we kind of had an idea of where it would go, and it hasn't even gotten there yet. And I like that. This whole alien thing has got me all frustrated for the past year, because what the hell? Since I was like 10 years old, I've wanted this. Shit, did I manifest it into existence? Did we all manifest it into existence, but not the way we wanted it? Because, oh wait, yeah, they're telling us that aliens are here, but it's them telling us shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really big, at this point in time, it's a big leap to say that they're telling us that aliens are here.
Well, yeah, and I'm generalizing.
Yeah.
UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon that we don't have a clue what's going on, and they have more information that they are planning to release to us. That's the official story. Yeah. Great.
And I think it's
even
important
that.
I think it's important to note.
I don't like that it's them telling us.
Yeah. I think it's important to note, though, that like what you just said is not hearsay or whatever. Like, that's an actual thing.
Those are news stories that we can actually... Well, here I am saying, it's a news story.
No,
it's
for sure.
Definitely
but, like,
real.
This is what is being... Like, this is not coming from QAnon bullshit.
That's the problem. It's coming from our government suddenly telling
us
us shit that they have kept secret for 70 years because they want to do a fresh start.
Yeah.
They want to be nice to us.
Yeah, and that's a fact.
These are like paraphrasing, but these are close to the real quotes. Like, we want to have a fresh start with the public. And I'm like...
What?
Oh, shut up.
Sorry, what'd you say?
Is this just...
In the context of fucking aliens.
Are you kidding me? Like,
yeah. No, let's have a fresh... Listen, dude.
A fresh start.
Dude. Let's just have the context is fucking aliens and advanced technology.
Yeah.
That's the context, but let's just have a fresh start because that makes a whole lot of sense.
So, yeah, I never even made that connection, but very loosely, you get the Great Reset, where they are using, we need to reset, and then they're over here in the UAP shit, they're going, we need a fresh start. So
but I love technology. Great. Give me all the tech.
See, that's the thing. I'm obsessed with this. So I didn't even really get into the belly here. Have you heard of the quote? It's attached to Agenda 2030, which is a World Economic Forum thing. Agenda 2030 is, you will own nothing, have no privacy, and you will be happy. Like, that's not a paraphrasing. That's the title of the article about this rolling out of what's going to be. So what I'm saying is, and I've been seeing this for 10 years at least, I love the subscription services. I can't afford a lot of them. That's going to become our entire world. I mean, you think about it in a lot of ways. You know how they're saying, or maybe you don't know, in this whole thing about the Great Reset, they're talking about uprooting and dissolving legacy systems. Legacy systems like the way you buy cars, the way you buy groceries, the way you do this, kind of like the technological advances that you're talking about. But the further you get into it, the more gloss you see, because the more what they're saying is not as palatable as it starts out to be. Because what it looks like from a conspiracy-minded point of view, which, again, I have one foot firmly planted in that world too, they are doing something that they've always done, taking a good thing and co-opting it. So, for instance,
by saying they're going to make it better.
Right, and they do that all the time on small levels and big levels. But the big ones are really creepy. Like, you ever heard of a book called Strange Sounds from the Canyon? Mm-mm. So what this book basically tells, and it coincides with a completely different book that kind of tells the same story in a very different way with a different angle.
Is this about LSD in Topanga Canyon?
Yes, similar, not Topanga Canyon, but Laurel Canyon.
Laurel Canyon.
Yeah, so you do know some about it.
Yeah, like the government was feeding hippies LSD.
Possibly. We don't know that specifically. We don't want to jump there.
Right, but out of that, like we're talking about
discrediting the anti-war
blah, blah, blah.
movement with the love movement, with the open-minded hippie revolution. Mm-hmm. Because in the beginning, when you looked at the Vietnam protests, and my dad used to tell me this constantly, like LSD and psychedelic, they had nothing to do with the Vietnam protests. And I was like, this guy's old and crazy. But he's right. Because when I looked into it, the Vietnam protests were very educated, successful individuals running businesses and teachers and very prestigious members of society completely against the war movement. But what comes a couple years later is an outpouring of homeless heathens setting fires and making love in the streets and doing drugs, and they're against the war.
And doing drugs, and doing drugs.
And doing drugs, and doing drugs. And they're taking your children, and they're feeding them drugs.
And they're Satanists.
And there's the Satanic Panic.
And look what Charles Manson did.
That's drugs. The other book I was referring to that kind of tells the story about the canyon from a different point of view with the same players, unfortunately, like Manson's parole officer, who after was already dead, we find out was almost fully running MK Ultra.
Well, that's fucking insane.
And now, granted, we'd have to go all the way down the rabbit hole, and I can leave, again, I'll try to put some stuff in the show notes. I don't want to branch off too many directions, but the overall concept is that they are doing something not exactly what they're saying they're doing.
Yeah.
Because this is the future, like I said, that our generation has been hoping for and wanting for decades.
But I mean, just to sum up your previous point in the correlation between the hippie movement, it's like listen, I feel like I'm a fairly reasonable person.
You are.
But like you have to know at this point that the war on drugs was created to suppress movements like the hippie movement and the Black Panthers.
Right.
Like that's why Nixon started it.
And I'm not saying that the hippie movement was all just a psyop.
No, but that is a widely accepted narrative / fact that's exactly that's why the war on drugs was started. Right.
So another example is COINTELPRO or COINTELPRO, however you say. Have you heard of that operation that became so it became public I think a couple of years ago due to a Freedom of Information Act request. CIA papers describing this project where they were infiltrating the Black Panthers and turning them into a violent organization. Mm-hmm. So
agent provocateurs are a thing.
It happens all the time, and I don't remember the name of it. I'm gonna start having pre-notes, I guess, for things I don't even know we're gonna be talking about.
Could have never known
we're gonna talk about this stuff. But I mean, this is just my bad recall from years of damage.
Yeah.
But back in the 90s, something was either repealed or written in as a new bill or something, which completely gives our government the legal right to use propaganda on us in the media or however they want for reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I would dispute that for a moment.
We'd have to look it up.
Well, no, just because like, why would they need to pass? You don't pass laws to
do
make things
secretive?
Legal.
Well,
like you pass laws to make things illegal.
Well, think about it though. There's legalities to propaganda in advertising and things like that, or at least there were.
I mean, propaganda is an interesting word to use in the context of advertising.
Sure,
but like.
It's marketing.
You're right in that in advertising, like
watching people like rats in a maze.
But those rules are like you can't do this, you can't do this.
Right.
So
I'd have to look further into it. That's what I'm going to say on it. I don't know all of it, but I know that it's something, and I feel bad for even shouting it out because it's something that conspiracy theorists like to put out there.
Yeah.
But I haven't done the research to really find out what's behind that specifically.
So what is the idea though with the Great Reset? So the Great
Reset is this beautiful future from. Do you remember the movie Zeitgeist?
No. You got super fucking into that movie.
I got super into that. Yeah,
and that
back
was
in the
definitely
day.
at a point where I was just like, I can't.
Well, yeah, a lot of people did that. but unfortunately, it
much.
was saying a lot of, But the end of one of the Zeitgeist movies was like a hopeful end. It was like, this is how horrible the world is, but look at this. This is what our great minds are putting together. And there's this whole thing, and I don't even know if it's still there, but it was in Venus, Florida, called the Venus Project, and it was run by this man, this like philosopher named Jacques Fresco, and really brilliant guy, really
That's a name.
futuristic dude. The concepts he was coming up with.
That sounds like a fake name, though. Can I
Jacques
just-
Fresco. I'm
that
assuming
sounds
that's
like
a hippie stage name.
a bullshit name.
Right. Well, I mean, yeah. So him and his partners and his teams and stuff like that, they basically took Venus, Florida, and I don't know if he was like a wealthy investor or what, but I'm pretty sure he basically bought most of the town and turned it into this city of the future where things were basically like those Earth ships you see people doing now, where it's a whole system that recycles itself and every part of the system
Off the grid.
it's basically what all the pictures that conspiracy theorists write about Atlantis, like everything worked as like concentric circles and this and that, perfect system.
I'd love to see a source on that.
Oh, that'd be so great. Well, they're usually channeling someone.
There's only one comment on Atlantis ever. It's only Atlantis is only talked
it's
about
not one comment.
once.
It's a whole
Yeah.
speech.
No, dude.
Yeah, it is. Have you read?
Yeah,
the
it's
two.
is it
the
Pliny?
two-
Is it
it's-
Pliny, the elder, or the
No.
younger?
Well, it's two documents.
Pliny. One of the Pliny saw Vesuvius, and I think the other one talked about.
Are you talking about the words from Plato or Socrates, or because that's where we have our only knowledge of Atlantis is from. Fuck. Is
well,
it
then
Plato or is
I'm
it
recalling
Socrates?
wrong, and it might be Plato.
It could-
I'm
I think it's
I'm
Plato.
confusing my P names
So,
from
but
4,000
I think
years
we
ago.
both have all this right because I think Pliny the Younger or the Elder had something to do with it, talking to a priest in Egypt about what his grandfather told him.
Yeah. That's
But
it.
it's in
But
two
there-
separate Greek documents.
So that was my point. Is like there's it's limited.
It's
Like,
limited,
very
but
limited.
I would
about,
turn you on to that podcast I recommended a few months back, and I'll recommend it to the listeners right now. And shameless plug on Randall Carlson and his
so that's literally
Cosmographia.
That's where I listen to it.
Okay.
I listened to all the Atlantis episodes.
Okay.
So that's where my comment is coming from because he's super critical. He dives mostly into the location of Atlantis,
Which I
and
kind
he's
of agree with.
Super,
Something was going on
yeah,
near the Azores
but
for
he's,
sure.
He's
Yeah.
super critical about people saying like, "Oh, Atlantis was here," because he's like, we have so few fucking words. We have like 15 words about the location of Atlantis, and that is it. And you, like,
We don't even have
this like proposed location is nowhere near where these 15 words indicate.
Well, so when the Pillars of Hercules are mentioned, Randall's pretty certain the Pillars of Hercules became the Straits of Gibraltar.
Yeah, no, I am on board with Randall Carlson's
theory.
assessment
With the theory.
of where Atlantis is. I was talking about his criticism of other writings of where Atlantis is.
Oh, okay, okay. Because they have
and-
no clue where.
Yeah, and so that was my point in bringing it up when you said Atlantis was built with concentric circles. Like we don't have enough information
no clue.
to make that
We
call.
don't
But
We're taking our ideas of what an advanced civilization would look like and plastering them onto
Yeah.
a hypothetical past.
yeah, which is
That is
like
growing
some
in-
weird Back to the Future.
There's
shit.
some stuff growing, as Graham Hancock loves to say, shit just keeps getting older. And
Yeah.
it's definitely popping up everywhere. I mean, I love all of it. But I would say the prominent theories about Atlantis are the idea that if there was some sort of civilization, we're looking at this one area trying to figure out where this one civilization was. The theory is that it was everywhere.
Yeah, that's dumb as fuck.
It was just everywhere. It
That's
was
so
just
stupid.
Yeah, I mean, let's get into it. I mean, we were planning on talking about what we both find pretty fascinating in the ancient mysteries, and I mean, it was a perfect opportunity to steamroll right into it.
Yeah, because, I mean, listen,
we
at the-
have objects all over the world that match up with one another. That, I mean, it seems like there was some sort of civilization that was kind of interconnected across the globe.
I'm gonna just lay it all out.
Yeah,
there.
lay it all
I
out.
have a really hard time. So like I have always fantasized about like it like, and I'm not saying this is true, so shut up. But like Mars is a desolate land with no atmosphere, and I've always thought like, what if we can't? So first of all, let me just back up a little bit. The universe is old as fuck. So anything that I say like is on hundreds of millions of billions of years scale. So think about how far we've come in 100 years and then realize that I'm talking about billions of years. It's like, so don't let that at all think that anything that I'm saying is completely impossible. and I'm not saying I have proof for any of this shit. I'm mostly coming at it from an angle like, wouldn't it be cool if? Like, I don't even necessarily believe that it's true. I want to, so I'm going to choose to believe that it is. I've always fantasized, ever since I was a little kid, like, and I saw Total Recall, and it was like, so Mars is a completely depleted. It's completely depleted. You look at Armageddon movies or whatever about Earth, completely depleted. What if Mars was populated as fuck, and they ran that shit into the ground, and they, or a comet hit, ran it into the ground. Some shit ran it into the ground.
It's got some pretty intense scarring on it.
Burned up the atmosphere, whatever. I don't know. Some shit happened. It went down hard. And they built spaceships because they were thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years advanced. They were a very advanced civilization. And they came to Earth. And they were like, fuck it, that's habitable. Maybe it's not. We terraformed it. I don't know. You decide. But they came to Earth and were like, all right, we're setting down roots. And it wasn't that many people. It was a very small amount of people. Now, think about this. Just ride with me for a second, assuming that everything that I just said is true. All right? Let's say there's settler ships. I don't fucking know. Maybe there's 4,000 people. Maybe there's... Okay, let's get crazy. 1 million people leave Mars and come to Earth, and there's a bunch of different ships, and they settle down everywhere. Let's say 100,000 people settle. That's literally 10 pinpoints on Earth with 100,000 people. Probably didn't even happen like that, but probably didn't happen at all. Don't fucking know. But if you consider that even 100,000 people landing on a foreign land where the fauna is new, flora is new, you don't know shit. You're trying to farm. You think you farmed on Mars the same way you farmed on Earth? I bet it was different. I bet they had some shit though, and they but maybe they figured out like, oh fuck, dude, the way that we built houses on Mars, that shit don't work. This ground is not the same. We can't do it. What we were planning to do, we thought we could do it, but we can't do it. We got to go to this cave. We got to build our houses into this cliffside, and like this is what we got to do, and it sucks, but whatever. And maybe the guy who was the captain of the big ship, they were like, this fucking guy died, so let's build a pyramid to honor his ass. And you get there, and like maybe there's like yo, dude, okay, this is the craziest thing, right? We live on Mars. We found this planet a really long time ago, and there's like, it's habitable. There's like fucking animals and shit on it, and like we're watching and we're seeing it, but like there's people that are like, they're kind of like us, but like they're like monkeys, dude. They're like fucking monkeys on this planet, and we're just watching, and we're like, let's go to the monkey planet, man. Let's go. Let's go
watch them hit each other with sticks.
Yeah, dude. And like these are early hominids and shit, right? So we're gonna go, and we're gonna live side by side with them. Like, oh shit, some of them are violent as fuck. Oh, that I gotta kill some of them. But yo, what's Robbie? Robbie is having sex with that chick?
No!
Dude, are you serious? Holy shit. Wait, are you telling me she had a baby? Oh. And it's a real...
It was Robbie's baby?
And it's that Robbie's baby...
It would be Robbie's baby.
...is viable? And it can reproduce? Oh, shit. So people being the dickheads...
Does that mean I can live out all my weird fantasies?
It doesn't mean that. But what I'm saying is like, it's not... Okay, super far-fetched. Maybe it doesn't get more far-fetched. But like, this shit tracks. Yeah. Right? This shit could have happened. And I'm gonna add to it. There's 1 million people who land on Earth. And the species start intermingling, whatever. That 1 million people, maybe they're teaching our language to other people. How many people of those 1 million people, if every person of those 1 million is a full-time teacher, how many people do you think are gonna carry on all the knowledge that they have?
Absolutely not.
Fucking zero, dude. Even if they teach 2 million people, we're gonna get bits and pieces. It's not outside of the realm of reasonable thought, if we're going to use that characterization of anything that I've said, to think that even if all this 1 million people came here and they taught the local species, they taught them enough to get their shit together. They're making fire. They're making, they're teaching, they're hunting, they're, whatever they got.
Agriculture.
Yeah, sure. Why the fuck not, right?
Written language, mathematics, astronomy.
How long until that 1 million people are dead? And
completely wiped
off. And the
off.
people who live on the planet now, some of them are hybrids, some of them are not, and we know that there were different species of human, quote unquote human, different species of human on Earth.
Yeah, where the fuck did the Cro-Magnons go?
Yeah,
where'd they go?
So, like, how long until we forget that those 1 million people exist? And then, oh shit, all of a sudden, this dude in the white robe, on the top of the hill in this dope building built out of marble that doesn't even make sense how it fucking exists in this time period, is telling me this story. And I'm just having a few beers with my friends, and I'm like, dog, Amadeus was just like telling this story about fucking things flying through the sky, and like he's talking about like these two dudes. He wants us to believe that two dudes, they were brothers, and they lived by drinking the milk of this fucking wolf. And on the top of this, he's trying to say this shit, and they founded all of Rome. I'm supposed to believe that. And like he's saying that there's one guy who was like super, super smart and powerful and like could control electricity. And like he gave orders to everyone. And like all these other people are like building shit and like doing favors for us. And like, I'm supposed to believe that? No, you're not supposed to believe that, you idiot. They're gods, dude.
Yeah,
They're
bro.
celestial beings,
Bro.
dude. But the fact of the matter is, if you look at a lot of Greek mythology and like from a geological perspective, it's like they're retelling stories. And if you look at a lot of mythology, full stop, they're retelling stories for shit that almost certainly happened. Right?
Oh, of course.
So at what point do we draw
We
a
don't
line?
say urban legends come from some morsel of truth
And
for
where
no
do we
reason.
say?
Why do we say that all the time?
Yeah, and but where do we say? Okay, this mythological story is based in truth, but this one is not, and it's based in this much truth, or it's based in it's not, and don't you dare sit there and tell me that there's no truth in any of them, because you will now need to explain the Great Flood existing in all of the stories across all of the religions forever. How's that possible? Yeah. Because the Great Flood happened, dummies. So what I'm saying is, I think people lived on Mars. We fucked it up like we do. We came here. We got developed. Like maybe, dude, maybe for a really long time, we were like, okay, the monkey people live over here. Let's just live over here. Let's just live down this area. They became pretty advanced because, well, they came here in a spaceship, and they had their civilizations, and they had their cities, and everything was digital, and just like it is now. And they got super small footprint. They're like, let's not fuck up this planet by having, let's use our fusion car or our electric car, whatever it may be. Let's not fuck up this planet like we did the last one. Let's leave no trace. Oh, but then a comet comes, hits the Earth, kills all the leave no trace people, who then left no trace.
Right.
Except they did, where we're finding super, super old sites where people set up what appears to be advanced civilizations, which is a thing. And it completely blows out our theory of like we started as monkeys and we got here in not literally, but in the blink of an eye on the grand scale. So that's what I think. I think we came from Mars. I think we landed. I think a comet fucked us up, and I think the Atlantis people probably direct descendants of the Mars people. I think Egyptians super influenced by the Mars people.
Right.
Maybe were. Don't know.
Don't think so.
Sun god.
So you want to get a little crazier?
That I love. Yeah, sure.
So one of the things that I kept focusing on when you were telling me this tale, and I really like the tale because it kind of adds to what I've thought, because bringing it closer to home and putting it at Mars being like a previous home to us kind of feels good.
Oh yeah.
It feels cozy.
Yeah.
Where like Mars is our buddy. We've always looked at. I always loved Mars. Shit,
Yeah.
my favorite video game takes place on Mars, so it's like I love it. I would love it if we came from there. I love Mission to Mars. That's a goofy movie, but
I've never seen that movie.
oh, it's a great goofy movie where the CGI doesn't hold up anymore, but like the story's still fun because Don Cheadle's crazy in it, and they're on Mars and shit. They find that famous face, and it's a real face. It's not just like a bad camera angle, and it opens up and all that good stuff. And oh yeah, we came from there, and that's
Oh shit. Yeah, because if we left, we'd leave something.
Of course, we'd leave a little, Cardi B MP3 or something. But
Could you imagine? Jesus Christ.
a golden record off on the Voyager records, Voyager spacecraft would be quite different today.
They'd still have no goddamn clue what we were fucking talking
Well,
about.
I think some of the mathematics, I feel like some languages that we gave them, like music and mathematics, and I would hope that if there is an intelligent species of any kind out there, that there would be some of that could be universal, because
Yeah.
otherwise, what's the point,
I would hope so too.
If I can't listen to a Mars metal track someday.
Yeah.
And hear what the Martians are doing with metal guitars.
I would hope so too. And Mars is a fine example of that. I would hope that there's like some commonalities, but like
Right.
you don't know what
Alpha
physics.
Centauri,
You
though.
don't know what physics and shit are like on other planets. Like
They eat pancakes for dinner.
you don't. They might, or they might breathe argon. I don't fucking know.
very
Shit might be
possible.
totally weird.
So, what I was focusing on when you were telling me this wonderful tale,
Instead of listening to me, Thank
I
you.
was listening to you. But what kept bringing me back was this idea that if, let's just say it was we can say we, if it was us coming here, we were super, super, super advanced, right? Interesting part about the Sumerian texts about the gods coming here and blah, blah, blah. Because, yeah, we're going to go real deep for a second, audience, and to fill in the blanks throughout the next few episodes over time, because we don't have enough time to tell this whole story. But the cuneiform tablets in Sumeria talk about the gods descending from heaven and creating us. And the reason why they created us was because the work was too difficult. That the work to toil on this planet was just too hard.
For the gods.
For the god. Now think about this though. An advanced civilization, would they have a clue on how to start? Like Joe Rogan had a joke years and years ago where he said, if I drop you off on an island with nothing but a hammer, how long before you send me an email?
Yeah. Forever. So that you're right. Interesting. Question though.
Question.
The gods descending from heaven.
Yeah.
Okay, the gods are always in heaven, right? Do these texts
What do you mean?
dictate? Well, when you die, you go to heaven. God of in the like
Sure, they meant the
Christianity,
sky, though.
God is in
They
heaven.
meant-
So that pointedly
That's
is
where
my
you're going?
question.
Okay.
Is there or do any of these texts say the heavens are the sky?
You have to look at all of history like that. Like, I mean, thousands and thousands of years ago, we have, if we think that this symbol meant this, and that seems to work all the way up, or for an entire system, I'm assuming we just have to go with it in that sense. So I'm assuming heaven across the board meant sky, but also like it may not. It may refer to all of what I was going to jump into here was that as we could talk all day long about the possible physical history of these gods and what the hell were these people talking about, because they were people like you and me. They weren't I think that's a misconception we have about people 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago, was that they were somehow like really dumb.
They were grunting all the time.
They were grunting and cavemen, and I think that's it's a pretty honest misjudging of the past for people that don't look into it a lot. Because a long time ago, you hear the mainstream say that, oh yeah, they believed all those crazy myths, so they must have been these lower humans. But they were people like you and me.
Same brain.
Why the hell would we be writing that shit? Either it would be super encoded, or it would be literal history. Especially when you have things like the Sumerians' kings list, which tell ridiculous stories of kings ruling for thousands of years. But then you also have kings later on that same list that we can cross-reference with Greek and Egyptian texts, saying that we knew that guy too. So it's like, at some point, these texts that were filled with mumbo-jumbo became the real story? When did we do that? When have we ever done that? Like the beginning of America, I didn't hear about like Cookie Monster having breakfast with George Washington and you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I do know what you
there
mean.
was no point where our history was bullshit. And we're
Well,
thinking of them as
I mean,
primitive
our history
man when we say,
is
oh, well,
kind of bullshit,
they
but-
just assumed that, there was a god for thunder and a
Yeah,
god
but I think
for
it's important to
this.
remember it's what survived, right? So it's what survived. And if there was a giant catastrophe and, my copy of The Hunger Games is the only thing that survived, people would be like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? So like it is what survived. But like if you consider the fact that that's what survived, because it's what survived, we
have to take
we
it.
have to take it as what we have to take it as an account
It
or a fairy tale.
forces us
And
into
if
a
it
very
sounds-
limited view.
Yeah, and if it sounds too crazy, it's a fairy tale.
Right.
But if it sounds accurate, it's history.
Does it help if we use other cultures from around the world that aren't connected to that culture we're talking about as an example? By thousands of years separated, geographically never came in contact with one another. So when you were saying that, us as an advanced species coming to this planet. Well, eventually you'd see Walmarts everywhere. Doesn't matter what country you're in, right?
No, okay.
But would you see pyramids everywhere if that was our style instead, which we do? We do see them. What I'm saying is, don't we have enough? In a way, we kind of do have the proof at this point. It's kind of like the history authorities and the archaeological authorities are kind of just finding new fun things to do with their lives right now. They're not necessarily going on the offensive and attacking people like Randall Carlson or Graham Hancock or the Comet Research Group. They're not attacking anymore. Michael Shermer of the Skeptic Society apologized publicly to Graham Hancock. That is fascinating. So there's like the public does not have to assume any longer that there's a lot of pushback to these theories, that like, things are connected around the world for some reason.
So for people who might not be familiar with Randall Carlson or Graham Hancock, like theories similar to what I was talking about, but like on a smaller scale, like there were advanced civilizations on Earth
destroyed by a cataclysm,
that were destroyed by a cataclysm, and we rebuilt the pieces. And now we are where we are.
And I think it's a very accepted idea now. I do think more, because the more people I talk to about it randomly, which is rare because I try not to push this on too many people these days, but when it comes up that someone is interested, they already know this. And it makes me feel really good.
Yeah.
Like before, I always like to be the one to tell someone something and see that spark go off in their head and feel good about it. But knowing they already know it makes me feel even better. Yeah. Because it means someone that I didn't expect would even be remotely curious about this kind of stuff. That's in the bag.
Yeah. I don't understand how you don't be curious about this sort of stuff. Like you
got to accept it though.
You could
people
sit
aren't.
and daydream about some of the dopest shit. Like the line drawings, that Native American line drawings or whatever civilization line drawings, where like from way up high it's like it's a serpent or it's a snake or some shit.
Like the Nazca lines.
Did they make those for dudes in spaceships?
Or were they just drawing for the birds?
Yeah.
That's
honestly,
my bird friend. I fed him a crumb last night. Yeah. I'm going to draw him a picture now.
Yeah. Why? Ask yourself why.
Again, not dumber than us.
Why?
Same fucking brain did this shit.
Literally same brain. Like our brains have not evolved.
Well, that's the creepy part too, because our brains haven't evolved since the beginning of these stories and before that. Like, what was it? Was it 50,000 or 100,000 years ago? It's a big leap. I can't remember which one it was where our brain doubled in size. And it's interesting now that scientists are finding weird anomalies in our DNA. Like, this looks fused. And how does it look fused after generations? Like, what does this mean? Like, they're just finding... I couldn't speak to the science on it, but when I read it and listened to a bunch of scientists get really excited, that's what excited me. You know what I mean?
No, it's super, super fascinating. I think that people who are skeptical, just like, if you're skeptical about some of this shit... And again, I'm not saying anything that I said is true. We're telling a story.
We're just guessing.
But there are things that we know are true. And like, if you're skeptical about some of this stuff, just like ask yourself a simple question and really think about it. Like the Nazca lines. Why? Just why? Why is there a giant picture that you can't even see from the place?
Back to the government thing about everything is intentional. You can expand that philosophy because it's not just governments. That's the reason why governments can always be depended to do things intentionally, like you were saying, is because we can depend on people and communities to do things intentionally.
You don't survive if you don't live
right.
intentionally.
Tradition comes from intentionality.
Yeah.
And so those Nazca lines and every other weird anomaly around the planet, there is a reason. Definitely a solid reason. And who knows? I don't like to go down the ancient alien route and go, well, this was kind of like maybe a runway. You see how the wing is very straight here? That is... like, you have to, the person speaking those words has to know that they're guessing deep down.
Yeah.
Like, and they have to know, do they have to know on the History Channel in a professional point of view that they shouldn't be doing that?
Yeah, I mean, you apply an awful lot of assumptions. First, you got to make a decision like, it was aliens. And like, all right, but...
Stop it.
You don't know.
I don't even like doing it, even though that's the theory that always, like, because of all the crazy conspiracy stuff I know, and, you know, I guess we could call it conspiracy, but it's more just like, you know, written fucking human history in the tablets and shit, is that, like, that's the one that it seems to be pointing to quite a bit over and over again. I mean, you talk to the Hopi Indians and they're like, oh yeah, star people.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck
well,
you.
I mean,
No,
listen,
star people.
that's what I'm talking about when I'm saying from Mars. They're aliens. You call them whatever you want.
Yeah, call them whatever you want.
Dude.
But we would all put Walmarts everywhere. And those pyramids, they just didn't believe in branding, man. But guess what? There's some awesome theories about the pyramids. And now it seems that there's a lot of stirring news coming up about these old, kind of hippy-dippy New Age ideas that were about resonance chambers and how these pyramids were positioned specifically there for a reason. And
well, we know they were intentional in that regard, like astrologically, but
very much so.
I cannot buy we'd put Walmarts everywhere, so we'd put pyramids everywhere, because
what I'm saying is you see the branding of a similar culture.
Yeah, there's
everywhere.
similarities across the culture, which I think is fair. In my fantasy land, they're above these sorts of things. Like there's
Those
no
concepts.
need. Yeah, there's no need for there to be.
Well, that's why
But
those
if they-
pyramids
but wait.
are not built for kings. Like you mentioned,
They're trying to convert the local populace. They have to give
need
them
to
an anchor.
Right. They also need to. I mean, what's going to convince a populace other than massive structures and things like that, showing your power?
Yeah, bigger than you've ever seen. It always devolves to a point where it's like, the more you know, the worse off you are.
Right.
Right? Which like is a really, really fascinating
The burden
thing to
of the
think about,
truth,
because
yeah.
it carries down from this story down to like, if you, listener, whoever the fuck you are, if you woke up tomorrow and there was a book on your table that explained everything to you in great detail, there would be things in that book that you'd be like, well, I really wish I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Like it's just the way it is. But they also say the truth shall set you free.
I think because
like, that's
through the suffering,
I think that's a personal
you have
conscience thing.
It is, but
Like,
that's
set
what I
your
wanted to
conscience
get
free.
into real quick. I know we're kind of running short on time. Probably.
Are we running short on time?
Are we running short on time? We don't
No,
have
I
to
don't
be.
think so. Yeah, so why don't
So yeah, we're gonna take a little break.
Yeah, let's stop for a minute and
Stop.
reassess.
Regain our sanity.
check
from
our
these,
levels.
you know, peel the tin foil off my tongue.
Just see where it goes.
Okay, man. And we're back from the break.
Yeah, so we the reality of the situation is that our kids are upstairs.
Have
and
been
they're-
for a while.
They have been for a while. The entire time we've been talking, actually. And it's almost dinner time.
Yeah.
And like, it's like people are waiting for us to be done a little
Yeah.
bit. And like, you know, and like, which is fine. It's not a criticism.
It's not.
It's
not a
just the reality of the
criticism. It's
situation.
not, no. I think we're gonna have to have a part 2 and possibly a part 3. And
Sure.
I think I would love to have you back on. You know, whenever we can do these kind of powwows,
I'd love to.
because as much as I can't wait to talk to as many people as I can get on this podcast, I really wanted to start it with you.
Oh, that's so nice.
Because I think it's fitting, because you and I attempted a podcast before I even knew what a podcast was.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I wanted to tell that story.
Yeah.
So when was that? Was that?
That was 2007.
2007. I wanted to start a podcast. Before podcasting was podcast. It was so long ago. I didn't even listen to podcasts.
We would have been famous, because even people that aren't doing great podcasts that have been sticking to it for this long, people know those podcasts.
It's so
at least.
fucking funny though. So it was called the Ruxpin Radio Hour.
Oh, that was great.
Which I still think is an amazing name, the Ruxpin Radio Hour. So Andy and I we recorded one session.
Yep.
And like we were just talking like random shit about whatever, and like all of a sudden I took a hard left and started asking Andy about his relationship with his dad.
Wait, was that when? I thought you started it out. You started the whole, like, we got like our introductions out, and you're like, so Andy just got dumped 2 years, man. How was that? I'm just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, dude. But dude, and like I said then, and I say now that like it was perfect.
Well,
and like you just got dumped. But I remember like it because you. So I asked you about like your relationship with your dad, which wasn't great at the time, and you're looking at me like, and I think you said like, dude, I don't really want to talk about that, and like it was just like, all right, weird, and then we just kept talking or whatever, and like afterwards you're like, you said to me like, that was cool, man, but like. I didn't know you were going to ask me about my dad. Yeah. Like, well, I guess I didn't really either, but I was super into Howard Stern at the time, and I was just like, I'm going to ask you about all the personal shit.
Yeah, I wasn't like a radio show listener. I wasn't a podcast listener because it was just coming out. Mm-hmm. Just a few people were like Red Band and Rogan and a couple others were doing it. Tom Green was doing his radio thing, but like... Yeah, I was like, I'm not important enough to be asked those questions. Like, can we talk about the Deftones or something?
Yeah, it was so funny. But yeah, so we have been wanting to do this for a long time.
Yeah,
so
I'm really glad that I had you over to do this, and I think we have a billion more things we could say about thousands of years ago and thousands of years from now.
Yeah, for sure.
And right now.
I'm ready to talk about it. I'm ready to hit on some things that I get super passionate about.
Yeah, definitely.
So I could talk really, really loud, and you have to turn it down in the mix later. I love it.
Well, actually, if it clips, you can kind of like hear the passion through the clipping.
Love it.
So it's good enough.
I'm into it.
So, I mean, this is the first episode, and I don't know where this podcast is going to potentially go, but I have been listening to incredible information for 10 years that I don't know what the fuck to do with. But it's like I'm hearing this podcast over here interview these 5 individuals that all say different things, but all seem to have the same underlying thing going on, but they need to talk to each other. Right. You know what I mean? Like we're getting so much information. Now it's time to really put it all together and start sharing that with each other and start seeing what it all builds off. It's all exponential. You know what I mean? So we're getting all this information. Now it's time to put it all together and see what it looks like, you know? And
that, ladies and gentlemen, is the deep share.
It's the deep share, man. Let's get deep.
All right, I'm ready.
All right. Oh, we did. We already did get deep.
How deep?
So now we have to go the other way.
Yeah, we're getting shallow as fuck.
Shallow as fuck?
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Deep Share Podcast. If you want to hear more, then hit that subscribe button. Follow me on all the social places. And remember, think for yourself, but don't always believe what you think. Till next time.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Enough, I get the point.
You have meddled with the primal forces of nature. And you will atone.
What do we know? What do we know? If I know what we know, then I can tell you what we know, and if someone else knows, okay?